Yes. Mr. Clerk, the time is 7:01. I'm going to call this council meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the added delegation? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim. Comments, questions? All vote. I'm not in yet. Should be. I just voted. Still no? Am I the only one? I'm a yes. Yeah, so I put it in twice. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I would just like to separate myself voting from 8.2.7. Just do some recent employment from a family member. Although we have no personal gain by this, I just feel it's appropriate for me to remove myself from voting on this item.
Thank you. Any other declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Community presentations. First, we have 5.1, Derek Ambrose, Community Programs Coordinator regarding June is Recreation and Parks Month. Derek, welcome. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor Mrakas and members of council. My name is Derek Ambrose. I am the Community Programs Coordinator with the town of Aurora, and I am here tonight to speak with you about June is Recreation and Parks Month, a great initiative that we in the Community Services Department take great pride in and are proud to celebrate annually with the community. Established in 2005, June is Recreation and Parks Month, or the acronym JRPM, is an annual community mobilization movement that takes place in parks, schools, recreation centers, and neighborhoods across Ontario. JRPM is an exciting way to increase community engagement and awareness around the value and important benefits that recreation and parks provide to individuals, families, and communities. The town celebrates JRPM every year because it is a great opportunity to increase awareness around the value of recreation, parks, and trails in the community. As you all know, the town of Aurora has a variety of recreation and park systems providing countless recreational opportunities for residents and visitors of this beautiful community, including 6 splash pads for the whole family to enjoy as the weather gets nicer for the summer. JRPM allows the town to activate the community, increase engagement throughout the month, and showcase a wide variety of programs and services we offer. It also encourages and promotes active and healthy lifestyles for residents. Research shown here from Parks and Recreation Ontario and various universities shows that participation in both structured and unstructured recreation, sport, and cultural activities improves physical and psychological and emotional health. Park, trails, and recreational participation builds family unity and social capital. They strengthen volunteer and community development, enhance social interaction, and creates community pride and vitality. Further, recreation programs, services, and parks reduce healthcare and social service costs, serve to boost the economy, enhance property values, attract new businesses, and increase local tourism. This year, there are 3 components to our JRPM campaign. Here's how the community can participate. Number 1, free recreation drop-in activities provided by the town Aurora Recreation Services Division. Residents are encouraged to visit the town's website for more information and a full schedule of all the drop-in activities being offered throughout the month. Participants that prefer hard copy schedules are able to request them from the customer service staff at either the Aurora Family Leisure Complex, the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex, or at the Aurora Senior Center. The town will be offering a variety of programs for the community to participate, including pickleball, basketball, volleyball, swimming, rock climbing, yoga, and more. Number 2, the JRPM calendar. For those who would like to get active and participate in the initiative, but prefer to do so from their own home or backyard, you simply visit the town's JRPM website for a calendar full of activities and ideas on ways you and your family can play all month long. Number 3, social media. Residents that would like to engage with us via social media are asked to take photos of themselves with their family and friends participating in any JRPM type activity, gardening, riding a bike, etc., and show us how you are celebrating in your own way. Post your photos on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using the hashtag AuroraJRPM23. And you can be eligible to have your photo in the future published in an Aurora Community Services Program Guide. A full listing of the town's programs, including each of our free drop-in activities and community events, can be found on our website at www.aurora.ca/Recreation Parks Month. Regular admission policies and capacity limits still apply for these activities in each drop-in area. Again, hard copies of these schedules are available upon request to staff. The calendar includes a variety of activities and ideas on ways you and your family can stay active this month. Each day has something different you can do on your own. Go for a walk, do some gardening, ride a bike, play pickleball. And as mentioned previously, we want to see how the community is celebrating June as Parks and Recreation and Parks Month on their own. So post your photos on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using the hashtag AuroraJRPM23 and be eligible to have it published in the Aurora Community Services Program. Don't forget to tag the town on Twitter and Facebook. On behalf of the Community Services Department, we invite Mayor Mrakas and all the council to come out and participate in the fun activities that we have planned throughout the month of June. We would also like to thank Mayor Mrakas for declaring June as Recreation and Parks Month in the town of Aurora. The formal proclamation can be found on the town's website. Thank you to Mayor and Council for your time this evening, and we hope to see the community out in June celebrating recreation and parks with us.
Thank you, Derek. Council, first, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gardner, any comments or questions for the presentation? Councillor Gardner.
Hi, thanks very much for coming. It's a wonderful initiative. And how is it going to be advertised so that?
Derek?
Through the chair. So Councillor, we will be advertising on social media. We have signs going up around of our community centers. We're going to be handing things out to our participants at programs, recreational swim, those types of ideas, just to get the motion out there. A lot of people are familiar with June Recreation and Parks Month because it has been an annual event here in the town, but we're doing lots of different social media, hard copy and soft copy promotion.
Will it be on the town's notice boards like the outdoor signs?
Derek?
Through the chair. I believe so. I'll have to confirm that and have Robin get back to you with that answer on that.
Councillor?
Thank you. And also there'll be information at the recreation centers.
Through the chair, correct. Yes, it's available at the Recreation Center by request for a print off of a hard copy. But we
Councillor.
also will have signs and posters up showing the calendars and events.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, sorry, I didn't catch your name again.
Derek.
Derek, sorry about that. Thank you for the presentation. Curious as to whether or not the town of Aurora is still offering free maps of the parks and trails in Aurora.
Through the chair, I believe that those maps are available at our community center for pickup and walking through. It's also available on the website. Since COVID, I think we've moved a lot of things soft copy, but again, hard copies are available upon request.
Councillor.
Thank you. I just think maybe that'd be something interesting to advertise, that they could pick up a free map if they wanted to. A lot of people still want to go on the trails and take that hard copy with them and discover Aurora. And maybe that's a good way to kind of get people out and about and discovering other parks as well. Also, I always want to say parks and recreation, so forgive me. Maybe it's going to take time for me to remember recreation and parks, but anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Well, through the chair, that great idea. And we do on our calendar, the social calendar, have things like go out on a trail walk and have some suggestions. We're also doing some promotional videos with our staff out at some of those locations, highlighting them, some of the trails, the Arboretum, things like that. And June Recreation and Parks Month is for everybody. So we're happy to be paired with parks, services, everything like that. It's a wonderful team to be a part of.
Councillor.
That's great. I appreciate that. And yeah, more maps the better. I think we want people off their phones and in the nature. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Weiss.
Thanks, Derek. A couple of things. For your own information, I have one of those maps and it also has streets on it. So I don't know where I have it, but I thought I had it here. So they're available somewhere. And I just got it recently. And it's a good map. So thanks very much for that. Do you have any specific targets that you have for June? June's a great month because the weather's getting better and it's a good time for people to get out. But have you isolated any things, a few things that you're targeting so that you can measure the effectiveness of this kind of thing? Because I'm always interested in measurement. That's all.
Derek.
I'm sorry. Sure.
Yes, that's why we're engaging through social media with that tracking, with tagging the town and using the hashtag to provide us with some of those numbers. This year, we've expanded more into awareness and education and getting people to come out and do their activities on their own time. Since it is nice out, in the past, we've experienced with some extra programming in our facilities, but when we tracked that, we didn't see as much participation because the weather was so nice outside that people chose to do it on their own. So this time we're really pushing that, providing a resource piece to get people out there and tracking the engagement on the social media. We still keep track of the metrics in terms of our drop-in programs and all the other things like that, because to see how much of an increase we do get since they are free versus the normal pay-as-you-go options. So we do track that. In terms of our goal and metrics, it's as much participation as we can gather in terms of the community and getting people to understand the benefits of recreation, and also that there's a ton of activities over the course of the month. So tracking that through social media and then attendance as well is key.
Thank
Councillor?
you. Through you, Chair. I'm just really interested in the metrics of it. So if you are keeping track of the number of people that are free versus paid, and you can give us some kind of information, I think it'd be a great thing. So thanks
Through
very
the
much
chair,
for the presentation.
Absolutely, we'll add that to the.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. Derek, thank you very much for coming. It's an exciting time. I know June is always time that I look forward to, because when I see what's going on as far as from this perspective, what the town's doing, always reminds me that I need to start working out. So it's always a great time to start to make sure that we look good for the summer. So I'm sure everyone's going to get involved, and I'll also be in my week ahead video. I know Mark, Franco and I talked about it. So I'll be providing that as well on my social media channel. So thank you very much for coming, and we're looking forward to an exciting month of activity and getting everyone in shape. Council, I'll call the vote. That carries. Next, we have 5.2, Melanie Osmond, Officer Events and Partnerships, and Brian North, and for Southlake Regional Health Center Foundation regarding the Run for Southlake Mayor's Challenge 2023. Welcome. I see you brought my trophy back. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor Mrakas, Councillor and staff, thank you for having us here today. I'm very proud as a citizen of Aurora to be here along with Melanie Osmond from the Southlake Foundation, officer of events, who actually really makes the thing happen. She's very shy about it, but she makes it happen and she works hard at it. So we're proud to be here tonight to present the trophy for the 5th time to the town of Aurora. It is the 5th, yeah, a consecutive year to the town of Aurora. We could not do the event without the leaders of our community helping us to do this. We didn't meet our goal this year, but we did very well at $434,000 for the Southlake run. So we appreciate it and we'd like to present you with your trophy.
Thank you. What are you here for today?
You could leave it there all year
I kind of like it.
or for the next 10 years if you work at it.
Well, I won't get into that. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Brian and Melanie, for being here tonight, and appreciate all the hard work, both the foundation as well as all the volunteers involved put into the Run for Southlake. And while a trophy and recognition is nice, what's really important is the money raised and what it goes to. And so perhaps you can just share a little bit once again about why there's a need for funds and how those funds are being utilized to better support healthcare here in the region.
Absolutely. So the Southlake Foundation raises funds for Southlake, and we fund what the government doesn't. So it's things like replacement equipment, urgent need for space, and equipment pieces that are just overused and overrun. As you all know, the town and our region is rapidly growing and aging, which means our healthcare needs are that much greater. So for all of those reasons, we do need these funds. Things like ventilators, things like our new MRI, our PET CT, all of these things are funded through donor dollars. So funds like this will be going and directed towards pieces of equipment and the needs of the hospital generally.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you for being here tonight.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you for coming. I mean, echo what Councillor Thompson has said. It's there is a bit of friendly rivalry, I think, between all of us as well, the other mayors and the other councils. And I'm going to do my best to make sure to push them to see what they can do. But I mean, as we all know, it's important that these funds do make it to our hospital, because we need those funds to make sure that we have the critical care for all of our residents, not just in our community, but right across northern part of York region. So it's vitally important that we raise these funds. And I think a lot of people put a lot of effort and a lot of work, and Melanie and yourself, and I know the whole foundation do tremendous work to make sure that we not only can we have this event, but we have many things that we can do to continue to help the hospital grow as we continue to grow. And so thank you very much for all that you do, and we'll see you next year. Council, can I get someone to move and second that? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Weiss, call the vote. That carries. Next delegation, 6.1, Daniel Lajeunesse, Stronach International, regarding motion 10.2. Daniel, welcome. You have 5 minutes. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So on behalf of Frank Stronach and myself, I just wanted to take a few minutes to, first of all, thank Mr. Mayor for bringing forward a motion regarding urban mobility vehicles. For those who are not familiar, urban mobility vehicles is the new classification by the Ontario government for the little vehicle that you have seen at the Southlake race. We were there as well, but you've probably seen it at the restaurant or other events throughout the province and throughout the country. We're very proud of what we've built, and it's finally time to bring them to the roads. So a little bit of an overview as to why we are where we are today. As you all know, Frank Stronach was the founder and the president of Magna for decades. About 8 years ago, he decided to retire. That didn't stick. He decided to get into sustainability. At first, it was majority about food. You've seen that work at the restaurant, the farms, other properties throughout the province and US. And through some lengthy trips to downtown Toronto, the passion for mobility was reignited as he saw that his trips to town hall or to city hall was taking a lot longer than it used to. The comment he makes is that it used to take about 30 minutes. Now it takes about 2 hours to get there from here. So as he was traveling a few times, he quickly realized that one of the main sources of problem is that we are all single occupant in our 5-seat vehicles. And he decided to get into single occupant vehicles or single occupancy vehicles. So this vehicle that you have seen is a 3-wheeled vehicle that is meant to be traveled at speeds and as you would an e-bike. It is a vehicle that is meant to really attack the emissions problems that we have today. And those emissions problems will not be simply solved by going from an F-150 to an F-150 Lightning. We have to rethink a little bit about how we actually attack mobility throughout the world. And the vehicle that is being manufactured right off Aurora Road, pretty much kitty corner from Walmart, will be a vehicle that will be manufactured right here. It will be available throughout the world. I'm actually leaving in 2 weeks for some work in Europe for that vehicle. And to bring it back to where we are here today, as I mentioned, the MTO, the Carolyn Mulroney government of Ontario and the finance government of Ontario have put together a proposal for urban mobility vehicle. Just to repeat on the main points of what an urban mobility vehicle is. It is a vehicle that travels no more than 32 kilometers per hour. It is to be used on the side of the road, not paths, not in any other location, but the side of the road. They are meant to be extremely safe. In fact, SARIT stands for Safe, Affordable, Reliable, Innovative Transport. And that safety is not just about the driver, but it's also for everybody around that vehicle as well. It is the 1/4 the size of a regular vehicle, which means you can park 4 in a regular parking spot. These vehicles are never to be driven anywhere on sidewalks or any of those other concerns that might exist. This is the best of both worlds in terms of providing you that ability to use a bicycle, but using it in the winter months, to use it when it's raining, to use it when you have those short distances. In fact, the vehicle was really created to get you from point A to point B, point A being your home, B might be work, school, or a quick errand around town. So I'm just looking at my climb. So yes, so the vehicle really is meant to be that safe, affordable, reliable, innovative transport. That vehicle will be approximately $9,000 Canadian when it comes to market in a couple of months. And we really hope that Aurora will be first to put these motions forward. And we are looking forward to leveraging what you do here today to go to other cities throughout the province. And then, as I mentioned before, to attack the rest of Canada, United States, and Europe, all right from here. So I have a minute, but I'm pretty much done. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Councillor, first, can I get a motion to receive and refer to 10.2? Councillor Gallo, Councillor Rees, comments, questions for the delegate? Seeing none. Daniel, thank you very much for coming this evening. Call the vote. That carries. Consent agenda. Someone like to move the motion that item 7.1 to 7.10 inclusive be approved? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, any comments, questions? Call the vote. That carries. General Committee. This is for both the standing committee reports for both 8.1 and 8.2. Are there any items anyone wants to pull? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 8.1.4. 8.2.9. And I'm missing one. Oh, 8.2.7. Thank you.
Councillor Gillen.
8.1.3. 8.2.8. 8.2.1.
8.2.1.
Correct. I just have quick comments.
Okay, anyone else? I got a motion to approve all items with the exception of 8.1.3, 8.1.4, 8.2.1, 8.2.7, 8.2.8, 8.2.9. Someone move that? Councillor Kemp? Councillor Kelly? Call the vote. That carries. Start with 8.1.3. Resident satisfaction survey. Recommendation out of committees, report number CA 023-001 be received, and 2, that staff be directed to conduct a resident satisfaction survey every 2 years to measure satisfaction with town services and programs over time. Councillor Gillen, you pulled this one. Would you like to move the recommendation out of committee? Someone else like to move it? Councillor Thompson, seconder. Councillor Gardner. No, I asked Councillor Thompson moved as out of committee. No one wants to move it out of recommendation seconder out of committee? No? Okay. Motion to receive. Councillor Gill and Councillor Gardner. Go ahead, Councillor Gill.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to kind of highlight some updates we did get from our CAO in response to the resident survey. And I really thank you for the information that we did receive, which kind of gave us an inside look of a comparator of what other municipalities were doing. And what I discovered that this is a very new process for many municipalities. So it is great that we are doing it. And, obviously there's a bit of a budget there as well that we got to see. So it gave us an inside look. And just given the information, I do appreciate the recommendation and through you and Mr. Chair to Mr. Natarozny that, continue on every 4 years or every term probably is appropriate at this time, just kind of based on the comparators. And I appreciate that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor. It's my job here. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that was a suggestion. Daniel and I were speaking about it, and to maintain the sort of the flavor of council's direction the last meeting, but maybe allow for an adjustment. We thought that perhaps allowing for up to every 2 years the survey, but really only doing the second survey within a term if there were things that came from the first survey that council wanted feedback on within a couple of years. But if we have a kind of report like we had on the last one where there isn't really any burning issues, then in those years or in those situations, then probably once a term would be enough.
Within the first few months.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor.
Perfect. Thank you. So, having said that, just kind of confirms some of the things that I was thinking and, maybe perhaps, midterm, maybe we have more of an update on maybe how we're doing, just kind of an internal KPI based on those results to help us kind of achieve some of that within a term. So with that, and I'll leave to my council colleagues if they would like to chime in, but I would stand with your recommendations, every 4 years within the first few months of a new election year would be sufficient. So that would be the what I'd want from the floor, but I'll pass to my other colleagues as to whether or not they'd like to support that as well. Thanks.
Councillor Weiss.
Thank you. And I want to thank the CAO for that analysis, because that's really important for someone to take a measured view of this. And so my question really is, what now? Because the motion basically says, let's receive it and we're going to conduct more. But what I'd like to see is some action items around that that says that there's going to be a process of identifying those areas that need remediation. And that isn't in the motion, but I just heard that that's the intent of making it from the one we had before to now. So all I'm concerned about is that we make sure that we're identifying areas that need some remediation and that we have some strategies put in place to do that. So through you, Mayor, I don't know if it's Mr. Nadarosny that's going to be able to talk about that or someone else. So appreciate a comment.
CEO.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. The suggestion from staff perspective is that would be basically council's decision when they got the results early in the term, whether there was something in that first survey that warranted further review within the term of council. So it's not that we would have anything prescriptive at this stage. It would be the only part that would be automatic would be after the holiday season, at the beginning of a term, we would do another survey. And then when those results came back to council, at that time, council would decide whether there was something they wanted to follow up on and how they wanted that. And that could include another satisfaction survey within 2 more years.
Councillor.
Fine, that's good. But at this point right now, I think we've identified animal services and traffic management as 2 problems or things that our residents consider are weaknesses. And so I'm just wondering if the next time we have this survey, we're going to have some remediation activities put in there to do whatever needs to be done with animal services and traffic in order to get a better score, if you will, the next time through. So I think you've answered the question. I'm not sure.
To you, Mr. Mayor. So I think in that situation, I understand what you're looking for, Councillor, and I think that would be incumbent on us as staff to bring forward those things as a result of the survey. And so I will take that back to the team. And if there's some kind of action we want to do in response to what we've seen in the survey that hasn't been specifically prescribed by council, then we would proactively bring that forward.
Thanks. That works for me.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I don't think it was included here, but what I hear from residents, I hear it constantly, is that our town website is very difficult to find things on, that if you key something in, you could get 1,000 responses. Is there any, I know that there has been some improvements. Is there anything else that's planned to make it easier for residents to find something?
Daniel.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we are actively working with GHD always on website improvements. We are down our website coordinator right now, and we are in the process of getting a position hired for a new digital coordinator, which is a new rebranding of the position currently. So our hope is that we will have someone very, very strong with a background in website administration. And I think you will see improvements to the website in the coming months.
Councillor.
Thank you. It's not unusual for a resident to call me and ask me how to find something, and often I can't find it, so I have to call staff. So that would really be a big help. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Oh,
Yeah, and
Daniel,
I'll
go
just
ahead.
add through, we've been doing our strategic communications plan, and that is something that we've heard back from community members. So we will be making that a priority in our strategic comms plan that will come to you later this fall.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. So With that, I'd like to add that the recommendation that the town conducts a resident survey once a term within the first few months following municipal elections. I think that would be sufficient for what we're trying to achieve today. So if I could make a friendly amendment to that or an amendment to the motion.
Need an amendment, seconder. Councillor Gardner. Did you get that? Yeah.
Within the first few months following the
I'd
municipal
put the
election.
first- Councillor, I would say first 8 months. You wouldn't want it in the first 3 months of starting it right after an election. I would suggest probably early spring would probably be a better time frame.
Yeah, I think through you, Mr. Chair, I think the closer we are to the date that we did
Yep.
this one on, so looking at something like January or February,
Yeah.
possibly just after everyone. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay.
exactly.
Councillor Gardner to the,
No, I'm for after, sorry.
any other comments, questions to the amendment? Call the vote. We can clean it up. We know what it's going to be. Okay. Councillor Reese. Yes. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Neighbourhood. Did I understand you correctly that if there's any problems that are identified, that council has to direct staff to look into those?
Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the idea was that only if council thought that those things that were identified in the survey warranted another survey in a quicker
Okay.
frequency, then you would give us that direction
Thank you.
at that time.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. Councillor Reese. Yes. That carries. Next item, 8.1.4, secondary suites and residential homes. Recommendation was to receive for information. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this. You move that? Okay, seconder, receiving for information. Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Hold on.
We just did that one. We just did that one, Councillor. We're on 8.1.4 now.
Oh, we're on 8.1.1.
No, 8.1.4.
I think it's clear to everybody how I feel about second suites. And as was mentioned in the report, we have a duty of care to ensure reasonable minimize the risk, sorry, of health and safety. I don't think that we've done that to date, and I would like to make some suggestions as to how I would like to see this going forward. I think Mr. Neighbourhood, did you discuss this with Mr. Remuno? Has Mr. Remuno seen the information? Thank you. Mr. Clerk, could you put yes, I guess I have to make an amendment to the. Well, I think council has to see the information first. No. So, I could just start without that.
Sure, but if it's to an amendment, then I can't have you speak to it until, right now, we're just receiving for information. Council.
Okay, so this.
So why don't I get, Councillor, why don't I get you to put the amendment forward?
Okay,
that you
I'd
wanna
like to
and
put
then
the
you can
amendment
speak
forward
to the
for
amendment.
discussion.
Why, yeah.
If someone would second that.
And this is the amendment?
Yeah, that's right.
So that the building department create a spreadsheet for 36 addresses with outstanding permits, including what has been done to contact the owner, when the next steps to close the permit. 2, that a registered letter be sent notifying the owner that an inspection is required and that the town must be contacted within 30 days to arrange this. 3, that the outline portal identified in the January report be finalized to allow residents to view a building permit and its status and know if particular second or third suite is legal with a completed safety check. 4, that the current second suite registry on the town's website be updated monthly and reconciled with the data provided January 17th, so that when a new unit is created, the registration number or permit number is identified, including the date when the final inspection and permit were issued. Does anyone want to second that? Councillor Gallo, thank you. Councillor Gardner, go ahead. To the amendment.
Since 2013. So for the last 10 years, 36 permits that were applied for to build a secondary suite are outstanding. So 36 permits, 10 years. We need to have some action on this. So I would like to have, for council to have a spreadsheet to know what the addresses are, when they were initiated, what's been done to try and get the owners to come in or to arrange for an inspection. And what staff plans to do to make sure that everything is done to close those outstanding permits, because it is a health and safety issue. And we do have a duty to do the best we can. And I think this would help to show that the town is doing that. I think it would help not only with the unit's safety, but would help with any possibility the town might incur, because I think it shows best efforts. The second one is, as Mr. Jean, Mr. Muno, and Ms. Van Leeuwen have all said, this is really a tough one. And when somebody applies for a building permit for a second suite, they get a list of what has to be done and when an inspection is required. So if they do A before they go on to B on the list, they have to call the town and have town staff come and inspect. And it's just not happening. And to have 7 owners take a building permit out and they just do absolutely nothing about it, it's not acceptable. So I think it would be a really good idea to send a registered letter to these 36 owners and tell them that an inspection is required. It's the onus is on them, but if we don't do anything, these permits just stay open and we have no idea what's going on. So at least try by sending a registered letter that they are required to have an inspection and that they should contact the town, and there should be a time limit on it. The third one is Mr. Jean from the January report. He said that the online portal would be coming shortly to the website, but it isn't there yet. So that's just a reminder. And I don't think anybody on council is going to do a second suite or has complaints about a second suite, but there are people that do. And we've taken the trouble to have on our website this second suite registry. But the last time it was updated was January 17th. And before that, it was a year ago. So I think that we need to do a better job to update it. It's just a matter of adding an entry when a new unit comes in. And I see that this interest doesn't seem to be of great importance or interest to people, some of the people sitting around the table, but it's a very important issue to me. And it could turn out to be a very important issue to the town if there was a fire and we had liability. And it certainly could be a very important issue if somebody lost their life. And we have seen that happen in other municipalities. So I would appreciate if council would pass this amendment. I don't think it's onerous. I think it makes sense. And I think it will help the town and people living in second suites.
Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. Thank you to Mr. Ramuno. So the first point, kind of data collecting and just giving us a status update. Sorry, can we get it back on the screen?
The only reason it was taken off because Mr. Jean's probably going to answer the question. That's why.
I don't have it any other way.
Well, it's back
Okay,
on.
thank you. Thank you. The second one, through to Mr. Muno or to whomever, do we currently do any of that? Do we send registered letters to, first of all, to open permits? And secondly, is there a limit or does a permit stay open indefinitely?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, then CBO can jump in. So with respect to sending out the registered letter, that's something that we haven't been doing in the past, but as part of this process and our discussions on this, it's something that we were planning on doing to try and close those remaining applications that are still open with respect to trying to connect with those permit holders. And with respect to the time period for a building permit, I mean, the CBO does have the authority to revoke a permit if there is no activity, but in situations like a second suite, those permit applications are typically left open until we can actually complete the inspections.
Councillor.
Okay. The third and fourth seem to be similar. And if I read them correctly, and it's providing information on our website to anyone who is looking to lease a second suite, and they have an opportunity to go on our website and identify whether it's legal or not. It's completed all of its inspections and all of that. Then I think that's appropriate. If it's a frequency thing, monthly seems okay to me. Through to Mr. Ramuna or whomever, do we do do we already do this and it's a matter of, well, the number 3 is finalizing this portal and number 4 is just updating it more often?
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, correct. The portal isn't up and running yet, but that's something that we need to put our minds to with respect to that information that Councillor Gardner has on the screen. And I believe it's reasonable, just identifying applications that are that have been received and just the status or the state of the application where it's at with respect to it's being completed and finalized. The 4th one, we do have a registry. Again, it hasn't been updated since, I guess, the last time the report came out, but I've spoken to Bill Jean as well, and it's something that we can look at updating at the very least on a monthly basis. And again, it all depends on the number of applications that do come in. And if we do get a swath of applications in a given month, it's something that we can do even more frequently. But again, these are all doable from a staffing point of view.
Councillor?
So generally, through you, Mr. Mayor, your department doesn't have any issues with any of these 4. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I think Councillor Gallo covered all my questions, so I'm going to pass it along. Thanks.
Councillor Weiss?
Yeah, thank you. My comments are along the line of what Councillor Gardner is saying. And in my experience, there are a number of secondary suites that are out there that create problems for us. And I've heard of numerous ones in various locations around town. So I just want to confirm that this is an issue and that we need to do something about it. I'm not sure that doing what we're doing is the right way to do it, because if we've only had a few hundred since 2013, I can't imagine that there's only been a few hundred that have been developed in this community. So we're not doing a very good job of trying to identify them. And I've had some conversations with Central York Fire Services about this, and there are some ways to be able to do that. But nonetheless, one of the conclusions you have on November 28th, the Bill 23, have you seen through you, Mr. Mayor, have you seen any change in the number of applications for secondary suites, basement apartments, or other things that would indicate that this is going to be even a bigger problem in the years to come?
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we've seen a significant increase, but I was talking to Bill earlier on. I believe we have received our first application for the third unit on a property. So we may see more of those in the future. Now that's the third suites have been made legal through Bill 23.
Thank you.
Councillor?
Thank you. That's it for me.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. I appreciate the comments from Mr. Ramuno. Just to comment through you to Mrs. Desario. Mrs. Desario, I'm not sure if you've had a chance really to give these additional steps some consideration, but just want to know if there's any risk or any legal concerns with adding this protocol.
Mrs. Desario?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I've been reading what's up there. I don't have any concerns. It sounds like Councillor Gardner said that it's best efforts. So in a way, a few of these actually will work in our favor because it does show that the town is using its best efforts to ensure that the permits are closed. So I don't have any concerns.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's it.
Not seeing any other comments, questions on the amendment. Oh, Councillor Gardner, second time to the amendment.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, from the January report, it sounded like the online portal was imminent. Do you have any idea when it will be up and running?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, good question. Maybe we can, if Bill's still online, if he can jump in.
Jean?
Oh, through you, Mr. Mayor. The online portal that we had implemented, we have already implemented. It is only for people who are making building permit applications. It is not meant for anybody to go on and review if there's a secondary suite on the property. This portal is strictly for building permit applications, so people can make their submissions online rather than coming to the office. So there's no intention for any anybody to go onto this portal and see if there's a secondary suite on that property. The only way for them to do that would be to go to our online registry.
Councillor?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jean. Mr. Jean, am I saying your name incorrectly? Is it Jean or Jean?
Jean,
Mr. Jean. My
that's
apologies.
fine, that's fine.
So I misunderstood that. So that point can come out. Also, could we highlight those 7, Mr. Jean or Mr. Mino, could we highlight those 7 properties that have never contacted us at all? They just opened the permit and left it. Could they be a priority? Because I have a feeling if they're residents living there, it's not going to be a safe space.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I've spoken to our CBO. They are a priority. So we're going to turn our efforts to, again, sending out registered letters and continuing to try and get in touch with those residents with respect or applicants to complete the inspection of those second suites. And the last resort, as we've mentioned earlier on, is if we need to go the route of getting trying to obtain a search warrant, we'll do that as well.
Councillor?
Thank you. I was going to add a bullet point, but I thought I better not. But if they don't respond to our registered letter, then we could send them another one saying that we might be forced to take the next step in the process. We don't have to.
I see lots of nodding heads, yes.
And I would ask for, on behalf of the residents who make complaints, that please ensure they are notified as to whether their complaints are valid or not. Thank you.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall a few years ago, there was a motion, I think it was your motion that became enacted into bylaw, where any owner of a new property with no freestanding building, and they obtained a permit from the town, they had a certain number of years to build it, or they lose that opportunity. If I recall, I think it was like 4 years. And I thought that was a great bylaw that came into effect. And so why can't we do the same here? Why don't we go a step further? And I'm not sure if that's implied in the amendment, and I appreciate and I in favor of the amendment. Why not? Would there be any negative impacts if we stated you will lose the permit after a certain period if you don't respond back in 30 days or 60 days?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and again, Bill can jump in. I think the issue with dealing with second suites when we do have open permits, certainly we could revoke the permit, and then we're dealing with a strictly enforcement issue of trying to get the second suite or those people removed from the second suite if that's the case, if we do have people in the second suite. So I think, and Bill will probably add to this, that I think when we're dealing with second suites and existing structures, the attempt is to try and have the building permit finalized, all the inspections completed, it closed, as opposed to trying to revoke the permit. It's a little different when we're dealing with perhaps new construction. If we've issued a permit and there's no activity with respect to a new build or a new addition, and it goes, there's inactivity, that's when the CBO can essentially step in and pull that permit if construction hasn't started. But dealing with the second suite, I think my suggestion would be to keep the permit open. And again, our chief building official and our building officials will just have to do their best to try and get in to ensure that the inspections are completed and things are up to the building code.
Councillor?
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Romano.
Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gardner. Did you say you were going to drop 0.3 on your amendment motion of the part of, and no particular second or third suite is legal with a complete safe check due to what Bill Jean had said? I'm just curious as to.
Councillor Gardner?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Asking.
Gillen.
Maybe I'll ask it to Bill Jean first. So through Mr. Chair to Mr. Jean, did you say that the online portal, a resident would not be able to view whether or not that there was a secondary suite or a third suite on a permit application at all? It was not designed for that?
Mr. Jean.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the portal that we've implemented back in January was not designed for that. It was designed solely for people or people to make building permit applications. So it was not designed for anybody to check a property to see if there was a secondary suite on there. The only way for them to do that would be to review our online registry.
Councillor.
Oh, thank you. And through you. So just given the motion that's before us today and what Councillor Gardner is asking, is that something that you were capable or able to program to allow residents to see with the intention? Is that something staff has considered? With the language in the motion?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think that was the intention. Obviously, that was not the intention of the portal. I don't believe that portal would have that capability. And I'm not sure, and I will defer to Patricia, but I'm not sure if it would be, there would be any liability or legal issues with somebody reviewing somebody else's application online.
Ms. Desario?
Ms. Desario.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I don't think the online portal, it would be just for applicants. And so it should just be the applicants who have access to it. Unless there's a separate page, if you will, that will then say what's registered and what's legal, but they shouldn't have any access through the application portion of the portal.
Council.
Thank you. So through Mr. Chair to Ms. Councillor Gardner, was that the intention of your third point then? I just want to make sure that what you're trying to achieve is reflected in your amendment here, which I think is a great amendment overall. I just want to make sure that the language here is reflecting what you're actually asking.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. Standing from the January report was that it was something that the public could view. According to what Mr. Jean said, but Mr. Muna wants to provide a response.
Mr. Jean. Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just for some clarification, I think point 4, I think really will cover off the second suite register. I mean, that is sort of our, the registry that identifies the second suites that have been approved and are legal in town. I think what we can do moving forward is, and it's apart from the portal, is just create a separate list of applications that are currently in process that haven't been yet finalized and are not complete yet. So the two separate things, but there may be something that moving forward we can certainly incorporate into the registry. Right now, the registry is available for public viewing, and it provides a listing of all again, approved, registered, legal second suites in town. So I think the second point, or the point with respect to number 3 up on the screen is can we provide a list of applications that have currently been submitted that are in process but not yet completed?
Councillor Gillen.
Could I just clarify?
No, Councillor, you don't have the floor. You were asked a question. Councillor Gillen.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair to Councillor Gardner. Is that a sufficient direction from what you're trying to achieve in 3, since the portal does not allow you that access?
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That also not to Mr. Muna, but that will only work if the online list is kept current, because it now is from January, and before that it was from a year before. So if that's the undertaking of town staff, then the answer is that number 3 can come off. Mr. Muna is nodding yes. Okay.
Councillor.
you. Okay, perfect. That was kind of where I was going at. Okay. So I'm happy with that. Through Mr. Chair to Mr. Ramuno, just to kind of circle up the entire process. Obviously this does involve Central York Fire Services. With what's being asked today is the information that you collaborate with Central York Fire easily attainable to keep up with this kind of an update.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is. It's all part of our review and commenting process with our building department.
Councillor?
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Gell, just remind everyone through the chair, and the chair directs the questions. Correct? Councillor Gell?
It's okay. It had to do with the third point that
I'm going to ask if they're going to remove it now.
it's a moot point. There's no need for that to be there anymore. We've confirmed. Why would we want to duplicate it anyway? We send residents to one area with all the information, not in two separate areas. It just doesn't make sense.
Councillor Gardner, you want to remove 3? Okay, who seconded? Councillor Gallo, you're okay with that? Removing? Thank you. So we'll remove it and then I'll call a vote. That carries 8.2.1. All main motion. Sorry, the conversation went so long. I thought we were already done. Councillor Gardner, you have the floor.
I think everything that needs to be said has been said, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Call the vote. That carries 8.2.1. Like Simcoe memo, receive for information. Councillor Gillan, you pulled this. Would you like to move the receive for information?
I apologize. I wanted 8.2.10. So I will move this as is. I have no comments. Thank you. I just have comments if we've already passed it, if I may.
Are they just comments, Councillor?
Yes,
If they're just comments, can you, do you mind bringing them under new business? Because we kind of passed that.
That's fine.
Okay. So you have nothing for 8.2.1?
no,
Can you just move it though, and I can get a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Thompson, thank you. Call the vote. Carries 8.2.7, Shining Hill Neighborhood Park Design. Recommendation out of committees that report number OPS 23-006 be received. 2, the concept plan for park design be approved. 3, that staff enter into a partnership agreement with St. Anne's School and Shining Hills Estates Collection, Inc., or any related entity for the cost sharing, design, and construction of parkland. And 4, that the condition on the approval of the total of 200,000 capital budget authority for capital project number 72281 St. Anne's School Park be lifted and the project proceed. And 5, that staff report back to council with a final recommended park design and estimated cost for review and approval. Someone like to move the recommendation out of committee? Councillor Gallo, Councillor Thompson. Comments, questions? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I misspoke last week, so I'm going to try again. So as with all new subdivision development, land has to be allocated to the town for a neighborhood park. In this case, we are considering a community park, and I have objections for the following reasons. In the first case, this is an increase in service level. And we talk a lot about increasing service level. I had a problem getting a path plowed through Tamarack Park because council said that it would be an increase in service level, and Councillor Thompson came in and suggested that as a pilot project. But that was just to plow a path because we had decreased the residents' service level. The second one is that taxpayers will need to spend at least an extra $1 million to provide this increased service level for one subdivision. And that's just a high level estimate. We have no idea how it's going to end up. And also we have no idea on what the increased maintenance cost will be. That's not going to be until our next budget. And the third reason I cannot support this is this community park would provide amenities to not only the neighborhood subdivision, but to a private school. And I don't think that's appropriate use of public money. I do understand that this would, that we need more facilities, but I don't think it's appropriate under these circumstances to do this. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo?
Could we just through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Romano, just a confirmation of how many residents are in that area that this park would serve? Roughly.
Mr. Ramona, do we know roughly? I mean, I know you know the unit count, but
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, what council's approved for the 2 phases on Shining Hill, about 200 units, so approximately 650 people are projected to be living in that area when it's built out.
And that's on the north side of St. John's. I would assume south side of St. Giles.
And I can tell you, Councillor, on the
part
south side, there's not really a community park in that area, so they'd probably utilize it as well.
And Newmarket is also giving us a portion of the lands, and the Newmarket side would most likely utilizing this park as well. It is about 1.2 million over what we would normally spend. We'd spend normally 1.6 for this type of park. Our contribution is I think 2.9. But we're also getting a lit field. Well, the list is long on what we're getting for that, and we would never be spending that kind of money to achieve those facilities. Yes, it's not designated, and we haven't planned for a community park there. That is true. Most likely would have been a neighborhood park, but you take advantage of partnerships when they arise, and this is one of those opportunities that we're in desperate need of fields. Why wouldn't we partner with a neighbor that's a great contributor to this community and has been for 100 years? I think this is a win on many fronts, and it's actually well spent money.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. I think Councillor Gallo said it very well. I don't have much more to add. Just perhaps if I could direct a question to Mrs. McDougall. As you've gone through the process of updating the Parks and Master Plan, you've heard some comments about concerns about the increase in service level of adding this to the body of facilities and amenities that we have. From your perspective, any concerns, and does this address a need?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we believe that this does address, based on the recommendations coming out of the master plan, this would certainly service some of those areas that are gaps within the master plan for rectangle fields as well as for our courts within the community.
Councillor.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, before I go for your second time, just remind council, maybe just anyone that's listening, I mean, Maverick, it was called Maverick Park, it was Thomas Coates Park at the time. That was considered to be over servicing the area, but yet the council of the day decided that it was in the best interest of the community to continue to provide more green space, more opportunities to have tennis courts, and we didn't even have a partnership. We didn't have someone coming in and spending money. So and we went ahead with that, even though it would be over servicing. There's more to the story, I agree, but I mean, I thought it was a great idea to create a park there, and I think the majority of council, and that's why we have that beautiful park today. So I think Councillor Gallo was spot on saying that anytime we have someone that's looking at putting in capital funds to help and partner with us, and where our community benefits from it, it's a win-win all the way around. So I'm in favor of it. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. And part of that puzzle is also that park you're speaking of services an extremely dense area. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Muno. You mentioned Shining Hill Phase 2 and 3. Did Shining Hill Phase 1, they would have also been required to give us parkland dedication?
Mr. Romero.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, I guess they call it different phases by different numbers, but the first two phases that have been approved by council were the one last year, the 90 units further to the west, and this subdivision closer to the St. Anne's School, another 110 units, so a total of 200 units. They do have a remaining phase, which is the portion of developable land on the west side of Yonge Street, right at the northwest corner of Yonge and St. John's. That's a future application. We don't have anything submitted. It'll likely be some type of apartment building or condominium proposal. But based on the 4 acres, I think I mentioned this last week, the 4 acres identified as this neighborhood park, the land dedication exceeds the planning act parkland requirement. So they have provided more parkland than is required.
Council.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Muno. My question was in the first Shining Hill phase that we approved, they would have had a requirement to give us either to provide a park or to give us cash in lieu of the parkland. Is there a park in that first phase that we approved?
Shimano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, the park that's going to be a condominium development, the parkland dedication requirements are being satisfied through this park, this neighborhood park here.
And follow up through Mr. Mayor, and we did receive cash in lieu.
Shimano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no cash in lieu because they are providing the actual parkland.
Councillor.
So through Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Muno, as you have mentioned this, the amount of parkland that's provided in this subdivision is equal to the amount of parkland that would have been required for the first and second phase.
I believe Mr. Muno said, I'll let him answer, it exceeds it. Yes.
Mr. Muno said it exceeds for this phase.
For all phases.
All phases.
For all phases. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor? Okay. Call the vote. Yes. Absolutely. That carries. 8.2.8, Special Events Canada Planning Policy and Procedure Committee recommendation was that report number CMS 23-020 be received. 2, that the special event calendar planning policy and procedure attachment 1 be approved. Oh, there's more. Is there more? No, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Councillor Gillan, you hold that one. You check to move that. Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Thompson. Go ahead, Councillor Gillan.
This on? Yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Through Mr. Chair to Ms. McDougall, I just want to say thank you so much for this. I know I asked for this quite a long time ago, so it's nice that we have some sort of framework now that we can work with. And as I was reading the report, I had all these questions about your matrix and how this is decided, and lo and behold, you had it all laid out very nicely. So I was really impressed with that, and I think this is a good guiding tool for staff and for council moving forward and understanding the time and the costs and everything within your department, as well as the taxpayer. And I think that's great. The one thing I was really impressed with was that list of events that were happening on an annual basis, and they kind of look like the mainstay ones, I guess is safe to say. And I was wondering if council would be able to obtain a copy of that on an annual basis, just kind of help us with their own messaging. Seems you're able to pick those dates in advance and know, when parade for Santa Claus or the Rib Fest, it's early May, and I'm assuming you probably knew those dates quite early on, and it kind of helps us kind of preempt helping advertise as well and shedding to the rooftops. Is that something that we just got a high level list like that on an annual basis?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, certainly I'm sure I can relay that to Shelley, and she'd be happy to provide it as soon as she can. A lot of it, as you say, will be very standard dates. Some of the dates may need to be advised later on once confirmed, but absolutely, I'm sure she'd be happy to.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it gives us kind of a guideline as well in order to anticipate something coming up, to see if there has been some changes, so we can communicate that to our constituents as well. So I do know that sometimes the media is not out right away because we have some procedures we need to follow, but at least having that list is helpful and gives us a bird's eye view of all the great things that we do in town. I really do appreciate it. Thanks.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, Shelley Ware and Lisa, I don't know how to pronounce her name correctly, but Lisa and one other person were sitting here, and they, I think, were ready for questions and comments, and we didn't make any. So could you kindly tell them that we didn't make any because we thought it was so great? Thank you.
You, Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Just to echo on Councillor Gardner's comments, we talk about the report and the calendar and all the information being presented to us being impressive. The work that Shelley and everybody involved on the team does is impressive year after year. Certainly, as long as I've been on council, it is often the envy of other municipalities what we've been able to accomplish, and Shelley's been a fantastic driver for that. And so the lack of questions, I think, is a good sign. It shows that the faith and confidence council, or at least myself, have in the work that she does.
Thank you. Seeing none others, call the vote. It carries. 8.2.9. Lessons learned from Highland Gate development. Councillor Gardner, did you want to move the recommendation? Out of committee? Someone like to move the recommendation out of committee? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been thinking a lot about this. Perhaps a task force wasn't the appropriate term, but I used it because the definition, or one of the definitions, is a group of people brought together to solve a particular problem. And I think we had a particular problem with Highland Gate. I don't know what council wants to call it. My goal is to look at the problems we had with geranium, with that, to look at the concerns the residents had, to think about what happened and why, and to have a plan going forward so that when infill development comes to us, we will have a plan in place. We will know how to prevent not all problems, but some problems. We'll have a structure or a process that will be really helpful to the residents in the neighborhood where construction is happening. As Mr. Muno knows, I still have a motion outstanding. I saw a home being built on Royal Road, and really, it just, what the builder was doing wasn't acceptable. There was a lot of garbage. There was a lot of signage, and the most serious thing was that they parked their equipment on the street and they didn't have any hazard warning signs. Now, I'd asked the staff to look at our policies and bylaws and see what we could do to, frankly, to decrease the work of bylaw and to increase the quality of life of residents in the area of infill. So speaking to the motion in front of us, I cannot agree with the second point. The residents have sent many emails to council, to the building department or the planning department. We know what their concerns are. I think it's inappropriate to ask them to come back and reiterate those concerns. I certainly have a list. I think that the staff would have a list of the issues that people called in to complain about. So I think that number 2 has to go off. I'm open to suggestions from anyone as to how we can get a group together, staff, councillors, both, maybe residents, to look at those issues and figure out what the process is to not have those again. So if anybody has any comments, I'd appreciate them. If not, I'll have to try and add to this motion to please council.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I wasn't here last week for this discussion, but I did watch the meeting last week. Definitely, I've had many conversations with the residents there, and I've also done some on-site visits and talked to them. And I agree with Councillor Gardner that I think we all know what the issues were. And I think in light of the motion was to kind of reflect on what we received during this process, because it is kind of a unique situation, and what can we do better and what we can avoid, and anticipating more infill as we grow, since that's really where we're going to grow, is more infill development. I don't know what that looks like on a collaborative level between council and the planning department and the applications. Although I do know that we've had some kind of informal discussions kind of behind the scenes and sometimes at open session about collaborating with a ward councillor about specific applications in that neighborhood and having meetings and such. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, would that be an appropriate place to kind of have some sort of, I don't know if we would call it a subcommittee, or if you would call it some sort of meeting of sorts, where it'd be the ward council or the application, and just with a set of expectations going forward, just to kind of understand, what the rules of engagement are, and let us be all on the same page so we can anticipate these things not happening. Would that be an appropriate place?
Mr. Ramono?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I understand it correctly, I mean, moving forward, if there is an application, a significant sort of redevelopment application in a given ward, and it requires council approval and it's received council approval, that is a route that, we can undertake with respect to having a meeting before they commence, construction, et cetera. It's something that we currently do now at a staff level. I mean, once an application has received its approvals from council, before they actually proceed to, doing any site works, they do meet with, have pre-construction meetings with development services staff. But if I understand your question correctly, that could be an opportunity where prior to construction beginning, the appropriate parties could get together to have a initial meeting before they start construction, just with respect to understanding direction of council and ensuring that proper notification and outreach is made with surrounding residents. That could be an opportunity.
Councillor.
Thank you. And just with that and reading the third point, the sentence kind of finishes with, and any process changes that will be adopted. And so I kind of feel and sense by the intent of Councillor Gardner's motion and then receiving this, that almost looking for staff's recommendations on what processes that we can do to change, because we already have this information from the Highland Gate. We already know what the complaints are. So would it be feasible to say, that the report be received and that staff provide recommendations on any processes and changes that would help remediate these issues moving forward? I think I'm looking for that process. What does that look like? When we're having that meeting with the ward councillor and the application coming in. And I think that's kind of like where we're at. I don't think we need to have the public coming out again for the exact same things we already know. Would that be something that would be an appropriate way of wording that through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, I don't have a problem with the proposed wording. It's something that, I can sit down with the clerk and we can work on how we report back on this with respect to any recommendations. But again, my understanding is if we're talking about moving forward with another, if we do get another significant sort of development and having that initial meeting, perhaps a kickoff meeting, we understand this is a unique situation. It was a very large area that covered, a 2-kilometer linear stretch of town, basically from Yonge to Bathurst Street. It affected a lot of homeowners. I mean, there's a lot of development around it. Not sure if we're going to see a similar type development in the future, but again, it's something that we can certainly have a discussion with staff on and reporting back to council on next steps.
Councillor.
Thank you. Okay. I mean, I like where the conversation's going. I think I just want to be able to formulate some sort of direction in writing to kind of say, okay, we want to have some recommended process change that's going to be clear and concise, so we're kind of all on the same page. I see another councillor wants to chime in, so I'm gonna pass the baton and just kind of mull over what we've just discussed here and kind of hear what some of the other councillors might have to chime in.
Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I'm hearing two things. Well, I'm reading one thing and then I'm hearing another. I'm reading that staff is recommending that we go out to the community to gauge input, to seek input, and then compile a report on what they've come up with, and then report to council on what changes could be adopted. And I'm hearing that first part, that it's not necessary to go out to the public because we already know what the issues are. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, is that accurate? Do we know what the issues are? Is there a need to go out to the public, in your opinion, to gather, or do we feel that we don't have a complete sense of what the residents' issues were? And there is a need to go out and seek that.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm based on, my interaction and the emails I've seen to myself and the various staff members. I think we have an understanding of some of the issues and the complaints that we received, and I think they're all pretty common and no surprises. Traffic, noise, dust, disturbance, hours of operation, length of time for the construction period. Yeah, the general themes. My understanding is, we have a pretty good understanding of what those issues are.
Councillor.
Okay, so I guess maybe we are on the same page in terms of the information that we have, that it's accurate, it's fulsome, we can move to number 3, if that's the case, and just ask staff for generate a report on what happened, how we can improve, and suggestions on what we can do differently to make this process better. What's the point of going out to the public if councillors are saying we have the information, staff is saying we have the information, and we may be upsetting the residents for asking them again when they said, I already told you what my issues are. So that's kind of where I see this summary report, put everything together, and see where there are areas that we can improve.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Along those same lines, through to Mr. Ramuno. So just so I'm clear, so you don't feel there's anything new to be learned by going out to the residents, that we have everything necessary?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I believe I've got a pretty good understanding of what the concerns are coming from the residents.
That's fine. Then I certainly would echo those comments. I think the only other thing to add is that, we talk about, developing a culture of continuous learning at the town. We talk about, or applaud ourselves for Excellence Canada and that kind of continual process improvements. I think what I'd also like to see through this report, and you touch on it a little bit within the current report we're looking on, is, this has been going on for a few years. So what have we learned, and what processes have we implemented and adopted to address some of these ongoing issues? Like, how have we been improving all along this way? And what else do we need to continue to improve? Because certainly I would hope that on an ongoing basis, as we talk about in the report, where staff are meeting on a monthly basis with representatives, that we have been all along identifying and making these continual improvements to enhance the process. And that should also be communicated to members of council so that they know that there have been some lessons learned and changes implemented to improve the overall process. Yes, there is still more to do, and we can continue to do this going forward, but I trust, and perhaps through you to Mr. Ramuno, in your short time since you've been back with the town, are there some things that you have recognized and made some changes in terms of the process, or adopted to address some of these issues that have happened?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Ms. Mary, yes, I believe there are some, and we can certainly report back to council on what we've done and changes we've made moving forward.
Councillor.
Thank you. So it's very clear that there is more that we can continue to learn and develop and improve upon. Absolutely, there's no argument there. But I also want to recognize what we've been doing up to this point, to acknowledge some of the issues and concerns that residents have raised up to this point. And so I just would like to see that as well included in any future report. And I'm fine if the second clause is removed.
So Councillor, you're the mover. Did you want to remove that?
Sure, it's fine.
Councillor Kim, you're the seconder. You guys good with that? I'm going to take that as a friendly amendment.
Councillor Gallo raises a good point. We just got a wordsmith.
They're wordsmith. Yeah, they are going to wordsmith the third one. Yeah, because it says after public input.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll get it up, and Councillor Gardner, I'll go to you for a second time. There you go. That's what's on the floor now. Okay. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Yes, so what I would like to suggest is that staff provide council with a report to outline the feedback received from Highland Gate residents and how we can improve, I think this is from what Mr. Muno had, how we can improve any processes in place. I'd also like to talk about somehow obligations of developers to improve processes in place and obligations for developers so that they're very clear what they have to do. For example, with Highland Gate, they said they would sweep the streets every so often. And I don't know if they did that or not, but what they did was they used so little water that they sent clouds of dust into the air and that covered people's cars, etc. So, so the obligation to clean the street, it has to be very clear. So could we just put that in the motion as well?
Sir, I don't think we need to have it in the motion. I think that would be part of some of the stuff that would come back in the report from staff. Because those are part of some of the complaints. So those are
Okay.
things that would be talked about. I think staff would provide in the report. Mr. Ramon, am I correct? Those would be things that the obligations of the developer. Yeah. Yeah. Councillor, go ahead.
Okay, I like Mr. Ramuna's wording on that, but I'm fine with this. Thank you to everybody for their input.
Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you. I think this is exactly what I was trying to communicate. To Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno. In respect to that last clause resulting process changes that will be made. And again, we've had some informal conversations about ward specific projects. Would that be something that would be included in the report to speak to in respect to wards?
Mr. Ramon.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it's certainly something we can indicate in the report regarding, changes that our current process, changes that we implemented throughout the process. If there's anything new that we feel we should be recommending to council to improve moving forward.
Councillor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If there's no language necessary to change to implement that or include that, then I'm happy the way it's been amended. Thanks.
Any other? Councillor Thompson, second time.
Just a quick comment, picking up on what was last said. Certainly, dust and debris is a common one. I'm hearing comments from residents with regards to the development at Maverick and Wellington, and the dust is traveling and affecting residents in Ward 4, 5, and 6. It just depends on where the place is and on the boundary, but absolutely, I think, the water in the streets, cleaning the dust and the debris is a very common concern and complaint from residents. And certainly when it comes to the developers and obligations, it's one of the more common ones that needs to stay first and foremost.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Gallo, second time.
Thank you. Through you, just to give a sense of timing, when would we expect to have this back?
Mr. Ramuno, what are you thinking? September,
It's always good to
October?
know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm looking at the clerk, but we'll work together. I mean, I think we're
Q3?
looking at the fall,
Paul?
yeah, or Q4, yeah, or the end of the year.
Now, before I call the vote, I just hope everyone can appreciate, because I've had many conversations with residents in regards to this and the frustration, as is mentioned by everybody, about dust and stuff. But it is actually a fine balance. It's almost an artwork to clean those streets, because if you put too much water, you end up in a mud bowl and you have different complaints. It's too little water, you have dust. And so it is a fine balance. Sometimes it's difficult to achieve that perfect mix that's going to clean the road properly and not have the dust fly. So I'm sure that we've always strived to make sure that happens, and we'll continue to push any development to make sure that the dust is maintained, and also that they don't have a mud bowl as well, because I think that's just as problematic the other way around. So, but I'm sure we'll get that information when the report comes, Mr. Ramon. Thank you very much. So I'll call a vote. That carries. So we'll move to 9.1. Consideration of items, well, next, we're already in there, so, but 9.1, additional outreach to 22 individual properties being considered for delegation under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The recommendations of report number PDS 077 be received for information. Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Weiss, any comments, questions on this one? Councillor Gallo? I'll go to Mr. Ramuno. Do you want me to go to Mr. Ramuno first? Yeah, Mr. Ramuno, and then Councillor Gallo, did you want to speak after that? Depending on what he says. Okay, Mr. Ramuno, go ahead.
Sorry, to you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to add the report in front of council. We undertook additional outreach of the 22 properties where we have issued notices of intent to designate. The report indicates that we had heard from 3 additional property owners that have written back or spoken to staff and have requested, or their preferences not to, for their properties not to be designated. In the report, we identify 36 Wells, 68 Mosley, and 50 Mill Street. There is a 4th property. We just received notice about a week ago. It didn't come through directly to planning staff, and it was received obviously after the report. So I just want to bring this to council's attention. We received a notice or a letter from 79 Victoria Street, and it's the Trinity Church on Victoria Street. And they've indicated they made a request for council to withdraw the notice of intent to designate on their property as well. So we have received 4 requests from property owners out of the 22.
Councillor Gallo, did you want to speak? Go ahead.
Just quickly. So this is, I mean, we don't have the data sheet on that last one, just to get a sense of the property. I think we all know it anyway. But this is the last opportunity for us to pass a bylaw in order to move forward. Just to confirm, it's in the report, we all know, but just to hear it through you to Mr. Ramuno, if we don't, what happens?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we also have the 22 individual bylaws on the agenda for council's passing. So once council passes those bylaws, a formal notice is sent to the property owners indicating the passing of the bylaw. But would also indicate the process that they have, the recourse they have, that they can file an appeal to the designation bylaw within 20 days. But that appeal then would go to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and their appeal would be considered at the tribunal. It would be out of council's hands once council passes those actual designation bylaws.
Council.
So that's if we do pass the bylaws, that's what the residents have that opportunity. But if we don't, from a town perspective, what
When you
do
say
we
don't,
lose?
do you mean that we
Let's say
defeat them, or we just don't do anything?
we don't do anything and we've passed our deadline?
Mr. Ramuno? We just don't do anything tonight. What if we just receive or defer it?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, again, if council doesn't pass the bylaws by June 9th, 2023, the properties then are considered they're automatically withdrawn at that point. So notice of intent to designate are withdrawn. They're deemed to be withdrawn. Those properties will still be on our registry of heritage properties. And again, under Bill 23, will come January 1st, 2025. The rules have changed under the Heritage Act, and those registries essentially become repealed. Now, council can reconsider designation bylaws, but I think it's someplace in the report that there's a certain time period that needs to elapse before we can issue another notice of intent to designate.
Councillor?
And that was my question. What if we don't? What could be done? From what I've heard is we may have to wait a bit, but we could readdress it. I feel, to me, for some of these, especially the ones that we just heard of, I personally feel rushed. I don't know if those residents had an opportunity to come and speak to us like the other ones did timing wise. I would like more time on those ones. If we did our due diligence and we feel confident that the rest of them got a registered letter, well aware of what we're doing and didn't have an issue with it, then I'm okay with those ones. But the ones that we received that have an issue, to me, some further work needs to be done.
Okay. Councillor, and if you want, I'd suggest, as we did previously, if you wanted to remove those four, withdraw them, that would be fine, but we would just need to do a reconsideration tonight. And that's fine. We can go through that process if that's what council so chooses. Yeah. What? Yeah, the list is gone all of a sudden. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I mean, my opinion is that homes that are worthy of designation should be designated. The cultural heritage is very important and we've lost a lot of it. So I expressed that opinion at the last time we discussed it. And I think if these, unless they're extenuating circumstances and the consultants made a mistake, I think that they should be designated. Thank you.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I guess the only comments I had were similar to, I guess, Councillor Gallo, if you're correct. I was just kind of disappointed in one sense that with the list in the report we had last time, we all had compelling letters from the residents as to, why they didn't want it designated. They had to fit some criteria. There was certain boxes they had to check. There was letters, pictures, a lot of work that they did to come to council to kind of, I guess, plead their case as to why they felt that maybe there was some misinformation in the report. And, just given some of the information, I would say that's probably maybe some correct misassumptions on some of the dating of the building. And so far in the report, we've just been kind of given a generalized kind of overview of some verbal conversation about insurance. And in respect to these properties, I feel it's only fair that they would have to do the work too and kind of give us their compelling evidence. I felt comfortable with what was presented by the other delegates in the letter received with my decision. I was comfortable with that. But, with these ones, I just feel like it's kind of like a rushed blanket. Is there any way through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Ramuto, that, we could buy some time to allow them to give us a reason or compelling? I mean, that's part of the procedure with that letter, is it not?
Mr. Ramuto, and my understanding was if we don't, by June 9th, it would be withdrawn automatically.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. But again, just to clarify, these additional 3 or 4 properties that have also requested that council withdraw the intent to designate, we haven't attached the letters, but we have received some detailed letters and responses from the 4 individual property owners as to why they have concerns with proceeding to designation.
Councillor?
Okay, so we didn't receive, through Mr. Mayor, we didn't receive those letters. It was just more or less a highlighted view in the report of generally what was said, and it was repetitive. Was there anything outstanding, or is there an email or something I missed, if you don't mind?
Mr. Ramuto?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, those individual letters, I don't believe have been shared with council. You may have received a copy, but again, the 3 properties identified in the report and this additional 4th property being the Trinity Church have submitted letters, and I have the 1 copy here that we received late from Trinity Church, just indicating their reasons for their concerns regarding council's intent to designate.
Councillor?
Thank you. So I guess June 9th, I mean, it's kind of moot at this point, no matter what we kind of decide here today, that whether we find it compelling or not, we have to make a decision. And it's kind of a shame, but unless, when is June 9th? Is it possible? Is there any other way of making a decision or deferring at all, Mr. Mayor? To be able to kind of like look at these letters or give ourselves like a time to, I wish we had these letters so we could look at it.
beyond issuing a special council meeting just to deal with this issue? No. My recommendation to council is that we withdraw these 4 properties because they would just withdraw by June 9th. And as Mr. Ramuno mentioned, they would still remain within our list. We could ask for Heritage Committee to reevaluate these, and we can have a little bit of a stronger look, as some of you suggested, and have those compelling arguments come back. And if we so choose at that time to look at redesignating, then we could go through the process once again for those properties. But at this time, I think it makes sense just to remove them. Mr. Sarah?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification. If you do not pass the bylaw, then they are automatically removed from the list. So they do not stay on the list.
Okay.
And then you can put them on, the next time you can put them on is 5 years after. You have to wait 5 years before you can re-add them.
Mr. Ramuno, you weren't clear on that.
To you, Mr. Mayor, my apologies.
Yes, Mr. Terry,
That's correct. They're off
Yes.
They're off the list and it's 5 years. I was
Yes,
just going
thank
through my
you.
notes.
All right, so if we remove them, we got to wait 5 years if we want to redesignate. So Councilor Gallant.
I don't know what to say. I don't like this process. I don't like how it's turned out. I guess at the end of the day, they had their 30 days. I wish I got these letters so I could at least look at them and read them. On the surface, to me, merits a little bit more information, but it feels moot at this point. So unless council wants to do a special council meeting to review this and make a decision, other than that, I guess we're receiving for information and leaving it at that.
Any other comments, questions? Councilor Thompson?
Thank you. Through to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, if they are removed from the list and we can't redesignate them for up to 5 years, do we not still have a process in place to be able to, for all intents and purposes, protect the cultural heritage of it? Because they still have to apply for permits. They still have to go through a process if they want any further changes. Do we not have some checks and balances there that could at least, help preserve those buildings for the next 5 years until council can reevaluate them?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So again, the issue with the if they're off the list, I mean, being on the list provided that the demo control, that if a demolition permit is received, we have a process to follow under the act. Right now, if come June 9th, if council doesn't proceed with the designation bylaws, under the new legislation, they are automatically deemed to be removed, no longer on the register. So if an applicant or property owner comes forward with a demo permit, there's nothing we can do. They follow the building code process, and there is no demo control anymore for these heritage properties once they're off the list.
Councilor?
Thank you. So there's nothing that, I mean, we can all gauge, I guess, the likelihood of that happening with some of them, specifically Trinity, but there's nothing we can do internally to put some sort of control in place that at least there would be a process if a demo permit was applied for, or would that be outside of the boundaries of the building code?
Mr. Ramuno?
So, Mr. Mayor, no, there's nothing that we can institute. But again, based on what we've been hearing from a lot of these property owners, even though some of them have concerns with the designation bylaw, I don't think we're going to see we're not going to be swamped with demolition permits. Not in the immediate future. I mean, that's my
Well, really just
opinion at
talking
this
about
point.
4 properties, but okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Councilor Gallo, second.
I get just some clarity around timing. So if we don't designate them or put them on the list, we can within 5 years. But is there not the provincial government after January 2025?
Listed.
There'll be
designated.
that doesn't affect it. They'll be delisted
To be delisted, but you can still designate a property.
after
Yeah,
January.
they just
20
can't be listed anymore. There's a difference between listing them and designating them. So you're not going to be, yeah, Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, that's correct. You know, under Bill 23, things have changed. So once come January 2025, municipalities can no longer maintain a register. And for instance, those 8 properties that were withdrawn.
Mr. Romano, I'm going to stop
Sorry.
you before you dig the hole deeper because Ms. Desario is shaking her head no. So Ms. Desario, you go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Mr. Ramuno. So right now we have a register. Some of them we're designating or trying to. The ones that are remaining, those are the ones that if we don't designate them by January 2025, those will be automatically removed come January 2025. In the meantime, we can still add properties to the registry, but there is still a new process involved in that if you do add them, residents now have objection rights for council even adding it to the registry.
So through you to Ms. Desario, if we don't, let's say these 4 properties, we decide we don't vote on the bylaws. Does January 25 affect the date in any way? I'm trying to relate January 2025 and the 5 years that we have to wait. Is there any connection between the two?
Mr. Desario.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, for these specific properties, these 4 properties, if you don't designate the bylaw, they are automatically removed. From whenever they're automatically removed, then you have the 5 years before you can add it. So the January 2025 does not have anything to do with these 4 properties.
So we can redesignate in 5 years.
Okay. But they're still listed.
No.
Even-
Once we remove them, they're not listed.
They're not listed anymore.
Yeah.
They're like any other property.
Yep, correct.
I just feel like we're doing this too quickly for my liking. What we're doing is significant, and my preference is that everybody's on board, fully on board on what we're doing.
What do we want to do, council? I got a question, Mr. Romano. If we just receive this for information and we don't pass any of the bylaws, that means none of them would be designated and they would all end up being unlisted, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. No, I just want everyone to be clear, like if we don't, okay. So I'll call a vote on just receiving this for information. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson's yes. That carries. Oh, yeah, no, we got a break. Violence are going to take a while. Take our 10-minute health break. We're going to Okay. All right, we're back. Okay, 10.1, motion bike share program feasibility study. Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, second, Councillor Kim. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I think it's a long time coming. I'm looking forward to the report that will come back to this to look at how we move forward. I think it's something that the town needs to do as we continue to grow and looking at providing more pedestrian friendly areas, especially within our major transit station area and our downtown core. So like I said, I'm looking forward to the report and hopefully council will approve this so we can get that report. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I did read through this thoroughly and, I do find it quite interesting. And I know that active transportation is definitely top of mind and Aurora Cycles and a lot of programming that we've been trying to increase. I do have some questions though about it. And, I guess one of the questions I have is who's the target market, I guess, through Mr. Chair? Is it people from coming into the town to the GO or is this the general community?
I would say both, Councillor.
Okay. One thing I struggle, and I have reached out to some people at the cycling community about this, just kind of get a gauge because they're the ones that are utilizing the service or they're advocates, they're hardcore, and obviously we're all on the same page and we want to increase this. But I honestly do look at this as a regional initiative. And, I'd like to see more bike racks installed around more destinations and see if there's an appetite to increase this mode of transportation. Have you had conversations with the region about this?
Councillor, yeah, absolutely.
And as far as what was the feedback from the region about implementing a regional bike share program?
Something that the region is looking at, but they would do it on regional services within the regional roads or regional implementing it within regional structures or facilities. This is for the town of Aurora.
Okay, I mean, sorry,
Councillor, to interrupt. We're not approving anything tonight.
Okay, I get that. I'm just looking at, like, I want to look kind of like at the, I guess you call it the 10,000 foot view. And, within the language and the motion coming back with a detailed implementation and including timelines and costs and metrics. It's just, it seems like a lot of, like, I support the feasibility study right out of the gate. Let's do that. Let's just figure out if this is something we want to do. Although we don't have, any KPIs or data about successes in other neighboring towns or other towns that are kind of likewise municipalities versus large cities like Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and so forth. And I worry that, as a municipal initiative that, if we had our bikes in Aurora, that they'd be abandoned, where we are a really small town. I get me wrong. I love the initiative. There's great things about it. I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse here. We don't necessarily have all the infrastructure in place. We are a small town. I do have a group of friends I know that when they bike, they're like, hey, they might go to Newmarket or might go to King and check out a cafe or a restaurant or, and I kind of foresee how are these things being enforced? People are going to take the bike. They're going to go to, Newmarket. What if they decide to leave it? Who's enforcing it? It's just so many moving parts here. And that's why I look at this more of a regional initiative. It may work to our advantage to be more of a regional initiative to kind of avoid that. And so, having a high level report could include the region, some comments from the active transportation group, or simply just reaching out to the cycling community for this purpose. But as far as the rest of, the motion, I feel is a little aggressive with the 6-month detailed implementation plan, Whereas, I feel like if we just reach out, figure out, whether get some data, get some KPIs, and whether this is something we could do, collaborate with the region, and see if this is something that, is sufficient as far as servicing Aurora or the region as a whole. Collaborate with just the locals. I think that that'll give us an idea of whether or not we want to implement staff's time and saying, okay, you know what, we like this, we think it's going to work. Let's get a detailed plan, and then let's get some timeline and costs and move forward. But I feel like it's just way too much before the cart before the horse. That's kind of like where I'm looking at it. And I'll let my councillor colleagues chime in here, but I would be interested in, I'm supporting clause 1 and, clause 3, clause 2, which is, it's great that we're going to explore funding options with operation of the program. Again, it's maybe a high level conversation, but I feel there needs to be some language in there in respect to speaking with the region about that as well, just to kind of understand what our options are. But clause 4, I don't think we're even ready at that point.
Councillor Thompson.
Thanks. Just a couple comments in terms of what my own expectation is. I certainly, support the idea of exploring it, bringing back a report with answering many of the questions that I'm sure council and residents would have. But the two components that I'd just like to see is one, I certainly would like as part of the staff involvement is to ensure that Mr. Cesario and legal have a look at it to just be able to identify any concerns or risks from that perspective, as well as making sure that whatever plan gets developed, that it's expandable, so that, should it prove successful in Aurora, it could be then expanded in Newmarket or the N6 or even the region could also then look to join in or work in concert with us to develop it on a larger scale as well. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Keller.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing this up. I support the concept. I support conducting a feasibility study. I have no issues with the first clause. I think the second one, in due course, we would explore partnerships and all of that. I support the third one in terms of outreach, particularly and probably firstly, the active transportation and traffic safety advisory committee. I think definitely it needs to go there and spend some time there to fester and come out with something. So I'm in favor of 1 and 3 for sure. I'm not in favor of the last. Well, I'm not in favor of one of the components of the last one. If it's, report back to council, I'm in favor of that. I think providing a detailed implementation plan is something that can be done down the line. I think in the feasibility study, we determine, is it feasible? And once we've determined that, we can figure out partnerships, we can figure out costs, and we can figure out an implementation plan. So generally, I like it. I want to move forward with it. I just don't like some of I think we're going a little farther than we need to accomplish a feasibility study.
Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've had many conversations about feasibility studies, and all this is an investigation. And from that principle, I'm fine with the motion as is. I think feasibility study includes potential partnerships, looking at what other regions or municipalities are doing or other locations. That's all part of the feasibility study. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall, I believe it's your department that would be looking after this. How long is 6 months sufficient time for, in your estimation, to, or is it Ms. Tienkamp or? Okay.
Who wants to say Ms. McDougall?
Might be the three of us. But ultimately, there is a fair amount here. We certainly bringing back a report within 6 months and provide an updated summary of what we've researched, what we've been able to pull together is certainly achievable. How much details within that, I wouldn't know until we venture down that path. So we'll do our best effort to get that back within 6 months, but it may not be as comprehensive as some of you may like, but it might give you a heads up as to what our next step would be.
Councillor.
Sure. Thank you. I mean, again, this is a feasibility study, and if 6 months, my concern is the 6 months, and if 6 months is insufficient, then I suspect that you'll either go back to the originator of the motion, Mr. Mayor, and let him know that you're going to need more time, or you're going to come back with whatever information you have within 6 months, and then we as a council can decide whether it's sufficient or not, and whether we want to continue in this direction or not. So, we always have these timelines, report back in 2 months, 6 months, a year, but we all know it's just a marker that we shoot for, and if it's not feasible to have sufficient information by that time, then nothing needs to happen. So I'm fine with investigation, and I'd be curious as to what comes back and how much information comes back.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just trying to look up the meaning of feasibility. I'm in favor of number 1 and number 3. I have a similar concern to Councillor Gilland about it being a regional initiative, and there's a lot that has to be taken into consideration. But I'm certainly interested. If it's a great idea, I'm interested in starting it with a feasibility study. Thank you.
Councillor Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. I'm all for active transportation, and I'm glad to see that the active transportation and advisory committees are going to be consulted and the rest of that. But maybe a question through you to community services. In the Culture and Recreation Master Plan, Ms. McDougall, did we see this as a priority in the community? I know we've had walkability and connectivity and a variety of other things, which this probably does. But do you recall? Because I don't recall.
Through Mr. Mayor, part of the Parks Recreation Master Plan does speak to healthy active living. However, the detailed review of an active transportation master plan comes from Mr. Ramuno's department, and it certainly would be covering the interest and viability of something of this nature.
Councillor.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Councillor Gardner, second time, go ahead.
Just, I'm looking at a dictionary definition of feasibility. It says the state or degree of being easy or conveniently done. And the example they give is the feasibility of a manned flight to Mars.
I'm sure there's lots of details in a manned flight to Mars.
This is just a ridiculous example. Thank you.
Okay. I would have no problem removing number 2, but I think that that's a lot of information that would come in regards to a feasibility study regardless. I'll take that note from this council that we want more generic motions in front of us instead of detailed ones. I thought I've heard that we want more details in our motions. And so that's why I provided a very detail oriented motion in front of council, so everyone would have a full understanding of what is to be expected from staff. But I'll make sure I'll take note of that and provide a more generic motion next time. So we can take out clause 2, that's fine. And we can even take out the rest of 4 as a friendly amendment. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, you guys fine taking out 2 and taking out the rest of 4 and just leave it where staff be directed to report back to town council within 6 months and then just chop it there? Both good with that? Sure. Okay. Clerk, we'll take out 2 and that rest of that 4 and then I'll call the vote. That carries. Second one, 10.2, urban mobility vehicles. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gallo, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Weiss, thank you. How much to go into this one? We heard from the delegate. This is something that the province is going to be putting forward. So I'm looking forward to a report coming back with a bylaw, proposed bylaw for us to look at moving forward with. And hopefully at that time, the legislation from the province will have been passed. Councillor Caroline?
Thank you. Very interesting initiative. And it's great to know that we have kind of this development kind of close to our backyard anyway. I'm just curious, the only thing that I would want to question through you, Mr. Mayor, to staff is 6 months enough time to have a report back. It's a lot, and just wanted to kind of know if that was enough timeline.
Mr. Rono? It's more of a, I know we don't have the director in place for that one, but yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can do our best to bring something back within 6 months.
Yeah, Councillor?
Thank you. I understand this is preliminary and I support what's being put in front of me here, and I kind of expected at some point we would see it through you, I guess to you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have any idea, what kind of support that we're trying to garner to kind of, I guess, rally along this legislation from the province in order to kind of move this along?
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. Actually, the Premier has come out quite big support in regards to this and thinks that this is the way to move forward, and has the proposed legislation moving forward, and they're hoping to get it passed. And they think this is the way of the future in regards to urban mobility vehicles within not just small municipalities, but essentially throughout the GTHA. And so I think that it behooves us to be prepared and have it ready to go, so that the moment that the legislation is passed, that we're ready to move forward and move into the future.
Thank you. And just reading through some of the clauses as well, I understand there's some engagement with the public. Although I don't see anything here, unless I missed it, about going to the Active Transportation and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. Is that something that you would want added?
Always add it if everyone wants to go to committee.
Okay. Be it further resolved that the town have adjourned engage in the public, stakeholders throughout the process, including posting public meetings, blah, blah, blah. Would it be appropriate to add that in there, or is it something that we should do later? Through you, Mr. Mayor, to you.
It's that, Councillor, could you repeat that, please?
If in your clause here, 3, and you're engaging the public and hosting meetings and stuff, would it be appropriate to also engage the Active Transportation Advisory Safety Committee here as well, in addition to what you've said here? Or is it something you feel you should do later?
No, we can do that.
Okay. Is that something that you'd be open to adding?
I'll get to that.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Councillor Weiss?
Yeah, thank you. And we really should have thanked Mr. Lajeunesse for his excellent delegation tonight on behalf of this and Mr. Stronach. I frankly don't see how we could not do this type of a thing. I mean, Mr. Stronach has been a business leader globally, and frankly, I think we ought to be as close to the front of the line in approving these kinds of things on behalf of a number of issues, one of them being environmental, others having to do with ease of transportation, et cetera. So I'll be in favor of this, regardless of the wordsmithing that gets done with respect to the bylaws and other items here. I just think it's a good thing for us to do.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Along those lines, we talk about engagement and hosting public meetings. I think there's an opportunity there to work with the delegate and Stronach International to be able to collaborate on future meetings, getting information out, getting engagement, And so I think there's an opportunity there to build that kind of partnership and ensure that not only we doing some things independently, but at the same time, we're looking for joint opportunities to reach out to the public in a greater way. And so I just think that that should be part and parcel of that engagement process.
Any other comments or questions? 2 seconds. And two. Councillor Gallo, Councillor, you guys okay if I add the active transportation? Councillor Weiss, you okay if I add the active transportation? Okay, I'll make that friendly. Yeah, just add it in. You're gonna add it as a different clause? No. Into clause. Yeah. Yep. Call a vote. It's you again. Just do it again. Try it again. This time I went through. That carries. New business. Councillor Kemp. Councillor Gallo. 3, 2. Councillor, okay, maybe I'll come back. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Garner. New business.
Mr. Mayor, bike racks were mentioned tonight. Can we ensure that our bike racks accommodate enough vehicles to make them worthwhile? I haven't had a bicycle for a while, and the bicycle I had, you could attach the wheel and that would be fine. But I think the new bikes are quite different. So can the bike racks that we have accommodate the new bicycles safely? It doesn't have to be answered this morning.
We'll look into that and we'll get an answer for you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Councillor Gillan, new business.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, I took a picture of a bike station in North Carolina, through Mr. Mayor to Ms. Camp, of a bike station that had some tools on attached with a air pump, and I thought it was cool. I was going to send it to you probably months ago, and I lost my train of thought on it and didn't send it, but I still have it, so I should send it to you. I just thought it was a comment. Anyway, I do have some new business through Mr. Mayor to, I guess so, Ms. Camp, wondering about, I know you have the dog waste pilot program and you're extending your locations, and I have seen them pop up just by way of being in the neighborhoods. However, specifically at Kennedy and Murray, that's been really a hot topic and a hot spot for people who feel they've been missing that receptacle that was arbitrarily removed a couple of years ago. And I'm just wondering if there's one there been added, and if not, how soon can we get one there?
Steenkamp.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a report coming back to council about the dog park or the dog waste pilot project. And in that, we'll be reporting back on expanding the program to other parks and trails and things and the costs associated. And then council will be able to provide direction on that.
Councillor.
Thank you. And the expectation of the ETA of this report?
Steenkamp.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe we have it on for July.
Councillor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, since I have the horn with you, I'll continue on with new business on the park at Hartwell. So it was really just a quick comment. And I guess my comment was I'm surprised, but not surprised about the inflationary sticker shock, because I know that was quite a bit of a conversation for people around the table. And myself was a little gobsmacked about the consultant increase as well. But the one thing I just wanted to ask is, how will the town be adjusting our budgeting moving forward? Obviously, this is not the first thing that we have gotten under our belt for our RFPs. Is there anything that, we're doing on now as we look back on some of the things we've already had quoted that we can expect? So I feel like we could be getting more and more reports of some of these projects in the next upcoming 6 months. It's going to be asking for more for that exact reason.
Ms. Myra Van Kessel.
Okay.
For you, Mr. Mayor, so we are seeing some of this right now, and it's a bit of a challenge because of the nature of the economy with the recent interest rates increases, and going out to market is a bit of an estimate at this point in time. It's not like in the past where things were a bit more stable and the economy was a little bit more stable particularly in the construction area. So it wouldn't surprise me if we had a few more instances like this happening with some of our bigger projects.
Councillor.
Thank you. I guess that's kind of unfortunate. And it's affecting us in all areas. So it is the reality of today. Through Mr. Mayor to Ms. T. Camp, I understand the community gardens will be accessible, but wondered if the natural playground will be offering you the AODA compliance. And if any of the comments from the accessibility committee were integrated or incorporated into this project. I know there were some comments made about that. I've also had some emails about the lack of going above and beyond for accessibility in our parks in general. I was hoping maybe you can provide me some insight about that, and maybe you could even talk about moving forward with the Access Now initiative that you, Mr. Perry, had kind of emailed me about.
Steenkamp.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, currently at the non-program park, we took into consideration what the accessibility committee had provided. We took that back to the consultant and they incorporated some accessible features into the playground as discussed. Also, the community garden is fully accessible with different heights and surfaces for gardeners. And moving forward, I will be working with accessibility advisor, and we will be going out and assessing the needs of the parks and trails as part of the next year's study.
Councillor.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I just kind of just wanted to put a pin in it with the AODA compliance, and also just not doing the bare minimum, and also reaching out to the accessibility committee and other people in the community to give feedback to make sure that, we're doing the right things, and it's not just, ticking the box on the bare minimum, because I think that we can do better. And, hopefully there'd be some consultation with them even about this plan that you planning to present to budget in 2024, and getting some feedback. I think that would be a good exercise to have to see what they have to say. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno. I know we had a sidebar conversation. I did have it in my new business here already to talk to you about the parking lines or some sort of lines at Yonge Street by the Ashurio Cannabis shop. I understand we did have a report on the agenda for the cannabis shops in Aurora, and there's been constant issues with parking. There's been many remedies that have been given. I understand some of it's bylaw, some of it's YRP, but at the very least, we should be able to put some sort of parking lines or something there to kind of direct people to say, this is where you can park, not here. And please, could you give me some sort of comfort knowing that we're going to be able to do something, because this is a constant issue, and, they don't want to feel like, their safety feels compromised, or if they have to leave, bylaw can't respond at, 10 o'clock at night, or, they're being blocked if they have to leave for any emergency or any kind of situation. It's kind of a, reactive situation. And so it just doesn't make sense to rely on bylaw.
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll have another discussion with staff tomorrow morning and see what we can do.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I apologize for all the new business tonight, but it's been a busy few weeks. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno. In light of referencing lessons learned from Highland Gate, Wellington Street construction. I've been contacted several times by some neighboring residents who wanted to have the developer contact them in regarding dust, of course. And there's some sidebar conversations to where we were under an impression that the developer was going to speak to these neighbors, not once, but twice. And this is the third time that I've been contacted. That contact has not been done. I totally support and believe staff have had these conversations with the developer, and the developer probably said that did occur. However, it didn't. And it frustrates me that, developers can speak out one side of the mouth and then not do on the other side. And I think this is exactly an example of what we need to do to express our rules of engagement and what those consequences are. And all they're asking for is simple conversation about the dust. I think one of the suggestions was, car wash, gift certificate, something to kind of help us keep the dust down on their car or something, but not even a acknowledgement or conversation. Mr. Ramuno, if you may just offer some comments, that would be great.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, I know I've reached out to the applicant. They have made contact with some of the neighbors, and they are doing a relatively good job in maintaining the Wellington and keeping the street clean. I'll reach out to them again to see if they're able to reach out to the neighbors once again.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I will be connecting with those neighbors as well, but I think I did send you specific address at least that you do have on file, which I won't necessarily disclose. And if you can specifically ensure that that particular resident has been talked to, that would be fantastic. I'd like this to be above and beyond a knock on the door and simply leaving a note in the door. They need to actually have some contact with them. That'd be great. Thank you. And that's it.
Okay, Councillor Weiss?
This is probably a seasonal thing that happens all the time, like when we have a change of season in the winter, but I've had a number of residents ask about the grass cutting and those types of things. And last winter, we had the issue of breakdowns and all sorts of other things to not be able to keep up with that. But through you to Mrs. Steenkamp, is there anything we can say to our residents who keep talking about, this park and that park not being done at the time they like? Are we on schedule and it's just a matter of keeping up with the growing period?
Steenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are on schedule currently. Right now, we're seeing a rapid growth, obviously, of dandelions. They are first and foremost up within a couple days of a cut. So right now, probably within the next 4 or 5 days, you'll see them peter off. I mean, they're in full bloom right now, going to seed. So once they're cut down after this, then the grass growth, well, not even the grass growth, grass isn't growing currently. It's the weeds that you're seeing up and above them. So within the next week to 10 days, that'll subside and we'll be back to a regular schedule and the appearance will be more aesthetically pleasing.
Councillor?
Thanks. Good to hear.
Mr. Garner, did you have another new business?
This would be through you to Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, if you've answered my email, I apologize. I haven't seen the answer. It's with respect to the TNT Plaza. A resident got in touch with me and said that on that vacant piece of land, there's I believe a construction fence and construction equipment on it. I don't believe that council has approved any development on it.
We approved the original commercial component, which they're moving forward with the permit, but I'll let Mr. Ramuno finish that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. The council, when they approved the original site plan, it included that additional outbuilding. They applied for a building permit for the final phase, which is a 3-unit commercial building, which is currently fenced off. So that permit's been issued. So that's why you're seeing activity out there now. They're going to complete that 3-unit commercial building.
Yeah, and Councillor, there was an application that came in for a residential.
I know.
That was withdrawn. And so they've gone back to their original plans that were approved by council. So all they did was get their permit to start that development.
So, Mr. Ramuno, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, I have a question. That I have the report. It's from a long time ago. I believe you were here where that plaza was approved for a large building like TNT. and 3 other buildings. How did it morph into every conceivable piece of land in that area got developed? Did I miss something?
I just say, Councillor, I'm just trying to think right now. There's TNT, there's one building, there's the Kelsey's, which would be considered a second, and this one would be a third. So
Well,
that's what we approved.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is true, except we didn't expect to have one building that would hold 2 separate establishments. And there's also a new one that was just built that's huge by the entrance that I'm sure we didn't approve.
Through
you, Mr. Mayor, I haven't looked at that site plan in a while, but I can definitely have another look and share that with council. But that was the original proposal. As the mayor mentioned, though, there was an application for a residential building on that southeast corner, and they're not proceeding with that. And that's why they are proceeding with their final phase being this smaller 3-unit standalone commercial building.
Thank you. And in our official plan, our draft official plan, it says that that corner is, and the southeast is going to continue to evolve. I haven't had an answer on that. I don't know where it will continue to evolve to, but perhaps we'll take this offline. Thank you.
And I heard about one of the businesses coming into that new commercial thing, and you'll be all happy when you hear that business. I can't give that information out just yet, but you'll be the business that's going to be moving into that commercial property. Mr. Romano, that's what I was talking about. It's okay.
No, thank you. We'll speak offline. Thank you.
Councillor Gallo, you had something? New business? There you go.
All right. I've been meaning to mention this or ask about it. It's the embarrassing state of repair of the Rainbow Crossing. And I'd like to get a sense of not only when is it going to be repaired, but a detailed understanding of this is the second time we've repaired it, of what the plan is. It should never be in that state of repair. We should be implementing a plan where it's reviewed and fixed on a consistent basis. And if I remember correctly, someone should be paying for it.
See
through Mr. Mayor, the problem with the crosswalk occurred after the work that was done at that intersection. The original crosswalk was replaced with a new one when they finished the work. It was identified right away as being deficient, and the contractor and the region were notified, and they agreed that they would completely replace it and that there was a deficiency in the application, but they didn't want to do it. The season had already turned at that point, and so they requested to wait till the spring, till the proper weather to get the adherence. And having followed up on this recently, they right now are suggesting it'll be done by the end of May.
So the installation was not done properly.
Correct.
And do we know why it wasn't? I mean, surely the region hires people that are comparable and know what they're doing. It's just embarrassing to see that and drive. I'm trying to say it's been months and months, and it shouldn't be that way. And whoever the region got should be responsible for it and should have figured out a way to fix it right away. It got put down, and shortly after that, it was in disrepair. They should have got it done quickly. It's embarrassing for all of us to have that in that state for so long. Why have it there anyway? Maybe it's the wrong location. I don't know, but if it wasn't done right, it needs to be done right.
Councillor, more new business?
Thank you. I realize there's no PSA tonight. So I had 3, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. McDougall. I just want to confirm that effective May 29th, that we're still on queue to have pickleball lines at Fleury Park.
Ms. Steenkamp?
Or Ms. T-Camp. Kind of crosses both of you guys, right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the lines are actually down currently. We're just waiting on some signage and rollout of installation of the signage and then the paddles. So, but currently the lines have just been put in last week.
Counselor?
Okay, I wish I knew. I want to do it. I think we should do a grand opening. Pickleball lights at Flory Park. Through Mr. Mayor, Ms. BT Camp, you're waiting on the installation of the paddle rack, and that's a very important component. And this is also at Norman Weller as well, I assume. Do you have an ETA on that?
Team Camp?
We'll be installing the paddle rack and the signage as soon as the signage is completed. So shortly, I would say, within the next week.
Counselor?
Thank you. And could council get an email when that is complete? So at least we can let people know.
Yes, we'd be happy to provide that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Before I move to bylaws, I just did want to say welcome, Ms. Team Camp. Congratulations. We're looking forward for you to being here, and it goes a long way to show that when it comes to staff in town here, we do have succession planning in place, and you're a great example of showing that you've moved up and you're here and you're going to be in front of us and continuing the tremendous work that you've been doing previously in a different role, but now you're going to be doing it as director. And we're very happy to see you here, and we're thankful that you're going to be here continuing doing great work for the town of Aurora and the residents. So thank you and congratulations.
I just want to thank Mayor and Council for the endorsement, and I look forward to helping support you in your initiatives.
Thank you. Council, I'm going to move to bylaws. Councillor Gallo, you want me to pull four of them? 1210, 1212, 1220, and 1224.
As long as they are 36 Wells
Yes,
Street, 50 Mill Street, 79 Victoria Street, and 68 Moser Street. Yes.
I'll confirm that once we put them up, but those are the four that you want pulled.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay, so council, what I'm going to recommend is then unless there's anything else that you want pulled. Well, let's do 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3 because they have nothing to do with the heritage designations. Councilor Gardner?
12-2 separately. please.
12.2 separately?
Yes, the
That's fine.
Archer Hill.
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that. So, okay, how about we'll do 12.1, 12.3 first. Just those two, and then we'll go to 12.2, and then we'll continue. Okay, so 12.1 and 12.3 first. Yeah. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Camp. Listen, I looked there first. There was no hand up. I looked down this way and there's no hand up. 12.1, 12.3. Call the vote. That carries. 12.2. Who wants to move that? Who wants a second? Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Gallo.
No,
All the vote. That carries. Okay, so now how about we do all the remaining ones minus 12.10, 12.12, 12.20, 12.24. Okay. So we'll do the 18 bylaws that are remaining. Okay. Mover, seconder. Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Reese. All the vote. Councillor Gallo, I'm pretty sure I got the right ones. It's my fault if they're not. Could always blame the clerk because he's the one that pointed them out to me. No, I'm not going to blame you. All right, now. Oh, I'll wait for this one. That carries. So do you guys want to do these ones individually or do you want to do them as a group of 4? Is everyone okay to do them as a group of 4? Yeah? Okay, it looks like I'm going to do them as a group of 4. Okay. We're going to do them as a group of 4. Now, this is if you want to pass the bylaw. So remember, if you do not want the bylaw to pass on these 4, you are voting it down. Just want to make sure everyone's clear on that. Yes, if you are voting no to this, if you do not want them to be designated. Okay? Just want to clarify that everyone. You do not want them designated, you are voting no. Just want to make sure, because I don't want after the vote that we say, okay. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gilliland. Call the vote, so everyone knows what we're doing. Those are defeated. Okay, confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gardner, second. Councillor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.